So just to explain what you're seeing on the screen, this is basically the only 60 seconds worth watching in the ruins.
The phone. It's just ringing. Let me see. Here, it's cracked.
All right, well, spoilers. That's like at the beginning of the film, so it's, they do make it out of there. But the reason I wanted to show that, of course they did. The reason that I love this scene, one is that this is 2007, so a cell phone is the scariest thing that you could hear in a horror film, because everybody in the audience is prepped to not have their phone go off, or hear someone else's phone go off. There were commercials that would air before a film that would be make sure your cell phone is shut off, or everyone's going to be really annoyed because it takes you out of the movie. And so that's one reason I really love it. But then I love that these vines, which this film, it's so disappointing that those 60 seconds that's the only suspenseful bit of this film. The rest of it is just grisly, disgusting disgustingness, as opposed to suspense. But the idea of these plants that mimic and would mimic something that someone wanted so urgently, as a cell phone to call for help, because that's pretty much what we have on us at all times and expect to be able to do. So that I thought would be a good way to introduce my talk, which is about hoaxes and spoofing and fear, and how all of that relates to our reliance on technology. My work often deals with automation, things like default settings, and intimacy, expectations of authenticity. I think about these things because it's hard to be a human, and each of us is just doing the best that we can. And this is just a project I did a few years ago where I asked some friends to join Friendster again 10 years later and just perform as you were 10 years ago. And the idea for that was that, we probably just met each other in the past few years, and I don't know what you were like 10 years ago, so this is a good way to just have an interesting interaction and get to know each other. And then more recently I did this. It's called the Emotional Labor Gmail extension, and that's what happens after you press a button. So it adds nice little things and nice words and exclamation marks into your language. And I kind of explained the emotional labor extension in an essay as a response to increasingly automated personal correspondence. But there was actually something a little bit darker that I had in mind when I was putting this together. Is I was thinking about there was an actress who wrote a story in Vanity Fair about a more famous actor who sexually assaulted her, and then but someone close to him said, well, that obviously didn't happen because she was nice to him at an award show. She was nice to him. I'm just these are not the actors, but it's just people are just nice. You can perform being nice. It's very, very easy. In fact, that's a very good way to, if you are under attack, to kind of, a smile sometimes works better than a sword to ward off an attack. And spoofing emotions plays out very differently in our correspondence online because we have more vessels for the hidden parts of our identity, or vessels to pretend. And I always just refer to the much quoted Oscar Wilde quip that man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he'll tell you the truth. Something else that I'm just going to say it. I didn't want to say the word creepy, but here's something that creeps me out. If I say creepy again, I did a bad job with this talk. So here is something that creeps me out. And I'm creeped out by my reliance on devices just for just being a person in the world. And that this is how I access memories and live and communicate and go about my ordinary day. And it opens up room for gaslighting and like algorithmic gaslighting. So this email, I received it, and it really upset me because this was like a service sort of like time hop that would just find things from your timeline and send it back to you on the same date, so like 2 or 3 years later. And I got this email, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I did not tweet that. This service is telling me, because it sends me my past tweets from 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And I'm just, what is going on here? I know I did not spend $100 in boxes, or did I? And I just was really upset because it sort of sounds like me, but it's definitely not me. And I had that like eerie feeling that all of a sudden some memory is being implanted. And I mean, I went into Inspect Element, and it turns out, well, no, I didn't tweet that. It was someone that was I faved the tweet, and it was like the day that I got that message was probably when memo lanes started including things that you faved that they would send to you, but they wouldn't have any kind of design elements that specified that it was not my tweet, it was someone else's. And but I bring this up because I think that normally when we're, in a room together, you have all these sensory details that you can accumulate to get a sense that something is awry. And on a screen, just getting an email, I can't necessarily read something as inauthentic or not the same way. And it's very possible that if it had been something other than something as specific as $100 in boxes, I might have just been like, oh yeah, I don't remember saying that, but that must have been me, I don't know. Or I might not have even got it. I noticed, you guys probably noticed this too, like the first people to tweet on the hashtag, hey there. I mean, this is a pretty typical experience now that like when we contrast an iPhone to a TV, your sense of control over your experience is so enormous with internet. And you have control over how you're navigating, how you're going through channels and going to websites, as opposed to just like a remote that would just flip through different shows. So that control that we expect when we're using a computer, to have someone invade that is a particular kind of scary. So I'm going to talk about the things that scare me on the internet and things that I'm afraid of and things that maybe we can't yet make a horror film. We definitely can't make a film as bad as The Ruins about this stuff, but I would say it's like a lot scarier than The Ruins, which is just gross. So this is very upsetting. I'm showing the tweets that are not really horribly racist or disgusting or just upset, because I mean it's breakfast time and some of us are jet lagged. I don't want to get really deep into what happened here, but last June there was a concentrated campaign of individuals from what was 4chan, they're probably all on 8chan now, and they sensed that there was this kind of split within the feminist communities of women that talk about feminism on Twitter, and they were exaggerating how women that are kind of marginalized from a mainstream feminist discourse they sense that they were being marginalized. So they created a bunch of fake feminists on Twitter that are women of color, and they used like ridiculous language. And then it started with this fake hashtag End Father's Day, and it was just exaggerated parodies of what they think feminists would say. And it's so upsetting too, because like this is the wonders of peer production in full effect. Like not for any social good, but for literally chasing women of color off of Twitter. That's what's happening here. Like the Wikipedia effect of 2007 is like, this is what's happening. And there were two women in particular that they already have a community and a network on Twitter that they were communicating and knew each other, and seeing new people who had funny language that just sent that sense of something being awry, because sometimes it was subtle, because you'd see the 4chan boards and they'd look at they'd tell each other how to be really authentic, because they actually were trying to mimic these women. They even took some of their avatars, and if you had a screen name with an L in it, they'd do a capital I, the trick that everyone does. They were trying very, very hard to mimic these women. So two Twitter users, Sassy Cross and So True, they created another hashtag called Your Slip is Showing that would find the people who were inauthentic and were trying to create problems within this community. I don't know if I'm just to make sure that this is kind of clear, is that this was, the plan from 4chan really was to have it so that if a woman of color just had a general conversation with a feminist who's mainstream and white and has access to a platform, that she would be skeptical. Like, it really was that disgusting. It was incredibly. It's just vile, and I don't want to like make it sound like a kooky. Oh wow, they were stealing identities. No, it's not that. It's actually disgusting. And like, there's also I'm not bringing up the worst screen grabs. Like, the thing that tipped people off is there would be some kind of slang that was just stupid, like we're the people of oppression, and it just like the language was just a little bit awry. And so you can see here, like, this was one of the fake profiles, and you could find through image search pretty easily that this is just a stock photo, but some of them were actually their avatar photos were stolen, and it was people that were active in another hashtag campaign called Solidarities for White Women. And the consequences of this was really frustrating, because the people who were targeted, who don't have access to major publications or like institutional backing to necessarily support them when something like this is happening. And just to throw it out there, if you want to see more of like what was happening there, that's at least a good place to start. And I'd also recommend Sadette Harry wrote an essay called Everyone Watches, Nobody Sees, and that was an essay on model view culture about how this really stifled a conversation. And it's really unfortunate that when this happened, we didn't create a broader conversation, because a few months later, Gamergate happened, and it was the same people pretty much. Something else that really frightens me, because I'm just saying very literally the things that frighten me, the particularly vile corner of YouTube, recordings of voyeurism through the remote access tool, spying through a webcam, messing around, leaving notes for someone, moving a cursor around to spook them. And even the language in this community is just appalling. Like, they call the people that if they've captured your computer, they might in chat rooms refer to you as their slaves. Like, it's disgusting. And so you can see there are videos like this that say things like "family scared," and this is something that is just, it's becoming kind of an everyday worry that while we have so much reliance upon these devices, we also have this threat that someone can get in there. It's not like your head. It's not your headspace. These are memories that you are slightly alienated from. So it's got to the point that even if you go to domestic violence websites, there will be like a little pop-up that says, hey, by the way, someone might have a keylogger, or someone might be tracking your activity. To end on again, it's breakfast time. I'm sorry to just start out with this Kooky conference really dark, but to end on some positive note. I think this is a moment right now where we're seeing second wave feminism was all about building these institutions like rape crisis hotlines, domestic violence shelters. I think what we're in right now is both defining the problem, which is why this talk was a little bit difficult for me, because it's hard to create narratives around what is happening. Defining the problem and also building institutions that understand the problem and have strategies and tactics to resolve this. Because if you're if you're being abused in this way, and you're also trapped by the language that you need a map that you can share with someone, why this hurts, why this has to stop, you're just trapped. And the most essential thing, though, is just to walk into a situation and say that I did not agree to this, I did not invite this, I did not ask for this. This is what I wanted from this machine, and this is what I willed. Thank you.